Good morning, Team Impact. Running a little behind schedule here today, so probably going to have to expedite this just a little bit. So anyway, today is Wednesday, the 17th of October. I think it's only 18 days till daylight savings time, till we fall back. We get an extra hour of sleep, I heard. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and talk about ratio tables today. So we're just going to take ratios and put them in a table. Okay, and then we're going to write the ratio, and then what we're going to do later is we're going to start graphing that. So, it's a lot of work today, but it's certainly worth it. Okay, so let's get started here. A ratio table is a way to compare. Okay, compare quantities. All right. Now, down the line, you're going to learn that this is going to be X and this is going to be Y. All right, when we start graphing. But I just like to go ahead and preface that. Todd earns $3 for every 5 chores he completes. Find the equivalent ratios using the table. So, for every 5 chores, right, he gets $3. 10 chores, he'll get $6. Times 2. Times 3 is 15 chores, he'll get what? You got it. $9. Times 4 is 20 chores. Times 4 is 12. And then finally, if he went up to 25 chores, he would get $15. So again, we're just multiplying this by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4, and by 5. Okay, so our ordered pairs, or our ratio, is going to be 5 to 3, 10 to 6, 15 to 9, and you've got the idea of this, right? So nothing earth-shattering there, right? Just scaling it up, essentially. Okay, so let's take a look at some questions here now. How are the chores and the amount of money earned related? So for every 5 chores, gets $3. It's 5 to 3. That's a relationship. How are the values in the chores column related? They increase by 5. So they're increasing by 5, right? 5, 10, 15, and so on. All right. How are the values in the total column related? They increase by 3. Oop, I forgot to put 5 there, didn't I? Increased by $3. And what do you notice about the ratio column? Well, what I would notice about all of these ratios, if I would simplify all of these, it would go back to 5 to 3, right? So simplified, they would be 5 to 3. Makes sense? So there's your ratios. There's your ratio table. All right. And we're moving on. Let's take a look at number 2. Number 2, Mr. Baker is making pancakes and reads the recipe on the back of the box. Use the information to determine the ratio of cups to pancake mix. Cups to pancake mix. What is the consistent ratio? Well, we have to start with this column right here to get it, okay? So it's 1 cup of mix to 1.5 cups of water, right? How many cups of pancake mix will be needed for 15 cups of water? So what we would do is just scale this up. So what we have to do here is we have to find the relationship. How are we getting from here to here? Okay, so let's take this up. Let's see here. It looks like they're adding 1.5. All right, so we could scale this up. Keep going. We need 15 cups of water, so we need a 15 on the bottom here, right? So if I added 1.5, I get 10.5. If I added 1.5 to that, I would get what? 11, 12. I would get 13.5, and then the next one is 15. So all I'm going to do is take this out a little bit further, and that would be 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? So that's certainly one way to do it. And we'll talk about other ways down the line here. But if you have 15 cups of water, you need 10 cups of mix, right? Okay. So not too bad so far. Pretty easy, just extending it out, writing a ratio table, getting our chores down. Let's flip the page and take a look at number 3. A cookie recipe calls for 3 eggs every 2 dozen cookies. Okay, 3 to 2. Let's just write that down right now. 3 to 2. How many cookies will there be with 12? Okay. So I'm going to put my 12 here, and I could scale it up, or I could go directly there and multiply it by 4. This times 4, and I'm going to get 8. 8. Okay. So we could keep the ratio consistent, right? So that's another way to do it. Times what? Times 2 is 6, times 2 is 4. Times 3 is 9, times 3 is 6. So we could scale it up this way, or we could go directly there. So when you have 12, how many cookies can be made from 12 eggs? 8 dozen. 8 dozen. So just a couple different ways. How many eggs will be needed for 60 dozen? Right? 60 dozen. So 60 dozen cookies. So what I would do is I would take 60 and divide it by 3. Okay, and I know that is 20. So 3 times 60 is 20. So if I multiply this by 20, I'm going to scale it up and multiply this by 20. So 2 times 20, 60 dozen cookies. I'm sorry. I took 60 and divided it by 2. I got that backwards there. I apologize. So 60 divided by 2 is 30. So if I multiply 30 times 2 to get 60, I would take this times 60 and we would get 90 eggs. 90 eggs. So sorry if I confused you there. But it's live, so things happen, right? A developer earns $6 for every 21 apps. 21 apps, $6. How many apps will we need to download in order to earn 84? 84. Well, we could go directly there, okay? Or we could double it and go times 2 is 42 to 12. We could go times 3 is 63 to what? 18. And then if we took that times 4, that would end up being 84. And then this times 4 would be 24. 24. Or we could have went directly there. We could have taken 84 and divided it by 84 and divided by 6, right? And we would have figured that out as well. So anyway, all right. So what we how many apps would you need to download for $84? Oh, $84. So I need to scale this up even further. I was looking at the apps. So I'm going to use my calculator here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is turn it on, and I'm going to take $84. I'm going to divide it by 6. And what I got was 14. So 6 times 14 will give me 84. 21 times 14 is going to give me 294. So that's actually what I'm looking for. I've got to make sure that I'm staying consistent here. So I need 294 apps. How much money will a developer earn for 105 apps? Okay. So what I would do is see if I could take 105 and divide it by what? Right on the top, I would take it to 21. And there it is, 5. So 21 times 5 is 105, right? So if I multiply the bottom by 105, I could multiply the top by 105. If I take 105 times 6, if I take 6 times 5, because 21 times 5, let's start this over. I know 21 times 5 is 105. So I'm going to say 21 times 6, okay? Sorry. I'm going to say 5 times 6, I apologize, is 30. Okay? So we're going to get 30 It's early. I apologize for that. 1's bad. The 2 is no good. Let's move on. The relationship between the number of babies to the number of nursery workers is shown in the table. 5 babies, 2 workers, 10 to 4, 15 to 6, 20 to 8. Make sense? What is the ratio of babies to nursery workers? Babies, it's 5 to 2. 5 to 2, right? Okay. How many nursery workers are required if there are 35 babies? So we want 35 here. Okay. So let's do this mathematically instead of scaling it up. Let's use our calculator. Let's take 5 and divide it by 2. And when we do that, we get 2.5. Okay. All right. So that means that 2 times 2.5 will give us that. Or 5 divided by 2.5. All right. Let's take 5 and divide it by 2.5 and we'll get 2. So that means that this number divided by 2.5 should give us our number of workers. And let's see if that works. 35 divided by 2.5 is 14. And that's what we're looking for, 14. 14 what? 14 workers. Let me write that down over here. 14 workers. So you can do that mathematically. I could have went to 25 and 30 and 35 and scaled this up. I could have done it a lot of different ways. I'm just showing you different ways. A lot of people like to use the calculator mathematically. Okay. If 7 nursery workers are available, then what is the maximum number of babies they can accept? If 7, so 7 would kind of fit right in here, wouldn't it? All right. And if you remember this 2.5, this factor of 2.5, that's going to help us. So if I take 7, right, when I showed you how I got the 2.5, and I multiply that by 2.5, what do we get? 17.5. But we're talking about babies. I can't have half of a baby. So we're going to say take that down to 17 babies. 17 babies. Okay. So finding that factor is very important because now I don't need to worry about my table. I can do it with any numbers. Miss Halbert wrote the table on the board and asked the students to find the missing value. Who found the correct value? Well, let's take a look here. We have 4 to 10, 60, 6 to 15, 90. And so, we're looking for that piece right there with the 9. So how are we getting from X to Y? Remember I showed you that earlier? Well, Aaron says I subtracted 15 from this and got $5.30. So I divided this by this. Okay. So let's see this here. Let's not even look at these two and let's figure this out. This is a unique one where we can't really build the table. So we're going to go to our calculator, and to figure out the relationship between these two numbers, we're either going to multiply or divide. Okay, so it's $10.60. Oops, we divided by 4. And we get 265. And I'm going to write that down, 265. And what I'm going to do is look to the next set. $15.90 divided by 6. What do I get? 265, right? So that means that 4 times 265 will give me that. 6 times 265 will give me that. So 9 times 265 should give me $25 and what? 85 cents. Okay. So that is the correct. The factor is $2.65 times the number of coffees will give us the cost. So I divided 1060 by 4. Yep. And then I found it was 265. It is absolutely Oscar. That's an easy way to do it. So showed you a couple different ways, right? We can scale it up, and we can go clear back here where I scaled it up. But honestly, I like to use my calculator, and I like to divide it. I like to divide it and find that factor, and then I can scale any number up into my ratio table, okay? So if we flip the page, okay, this is your homework 3. Please complete this. Take your time. There's only 3 problems, but it's important to be correct. It's important to label your answers. It's important to try to minimize the mistakes. All right. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you.